So today we're going to try something a little different and make these what I'm calling floating or invisible joints. I haven't decided yet. But the basic idea is to create a gap filled with epoxy wherever two pieces meet, and when viewed from a distance, it actually looks pretty invisible. Now this isn't really a practical idea, it's more of an artsy experimental idea, which I'm no stranger to on this channel. If you guys are familiar with my videos, then you might remember the crayon inlay tables, the exploded side table, or even a few kind of similar techniques I've played around with, like the epoxy locking joints, or even the splintered console. I'll link all those videos below. But in this one, instead of building a project around an idea, instead I'm just going to kind of document experimenting with this idea, which will basically include creating and then ultimately destroying or strength testing them. Okay. Let's get into it.
I'm going to turn some lights on, actually. I think that'll do nicely.
So the first order of business was creating the test pieces. And for the shape of these, they could have been whatever I wanted, but I decided to do some legs in the shape and style that I use pretty commonly. And that was a tapered splayed leg. So something like the spider table or this side table. And the reason I did that is because, say for example, on something like this coffee table, the most common force is going to be downward, which is going to put stress on this joint. But if the leg's at a right angle, it's basically just compression strength, and that's going to take thousands of pounds to break it. But as soon as you start introducing an angle, it's going to get significantly weaker as it starts applying pressure in this sort of direction. So hopefully doing this test will let me know if something like this design would be a viable option.
We need a lumber rack. I guess a wall is kind of like a lumber rack, right? Both can hold lumber. Woo! Slippery.
So with my test legs cut to their finished shape, next I could grab some melamine and get to work creating my forms for casting everything. So I decided to make a total of 4 test legs. One with a narrow gap, one with a wide gap, one with a wide gap that I also cut domino mortises into, basically just to see if creating some kind of little recess for the epoxy to get into would change anything. And then one normal miter joint with wood glue as a sort of baseline for comparison. And I'm glad I didn't make any more because I went through way more glue than I was expecting to, and I really didn't want to make another trip to the store.
I think I'm just going to use like the hot glue gun. There's a heat gun. I know we've got a hot glue gun somewhere here, I just don't know where. Oh. I'm just creating a place for there to be a pool of epoxy that sits in between these two things. Steep bevel on these two just so that I don't get such a crazy weird inside corner. This one doesn't really matter because I can just run hot glue up here. We want them to meet up as much as we can so that we don't have like a weird little corner. So I should be able to just glue those down. But yeah, I remember that. I kept turning it off. So I hot glued it into the high position. Because why would you ever want it on low, right? Yeah, so those are on there good. Just give a little dab at the foot there just to hold it in place. I think I might have it too hot. I shouldn't have glued it down. Right now I'm pretty sure if I poured epoxy in, it's just going to get under the wood and just start coming out all here. So I feel like I'm probably going to have to, I would have to do some kind of caulking. Probably just use hot glue because that's all I have. And so I'd say we can go ahead and get it mixed up and pour it in, and hopefully we'll know right away if it's leaking. 3, 4. Yeah, that looks like it should be plenty. I think I'll do it on the ground too, just in case it leaks all over the place. Yeah, this is probably mixed enough. Okay. It gives me some confidence. And actually, more efficient. I say we just let it go for 10 minutes and then we come back and look at it, and if it's sunk below that significantly, then we know we have to do something, and if not, then we're fine. Probably check to make sure that the first one's still good. It's not gonna leak, obviously. It would have leaked by now. Oof, it's like a melamine splinter. Do you see it? So it needs a little push from the back. Oh, this bag's hard to open. I'm gonna melt it open.
Like a weird Kit Kat.
It's a terrible Kit Kat. Tastes like glue. Kindergartners would like it. They like eating glue.
Eating glue in the neighborhood.
That's like Applebee's for kindergartners. Love that glue stick from Popeyes. I should actually probably pour half and half for these. God, I so don't want to though. I want to just do the whole thing and then just be done. This didn't melt the cup, and this is a pretty good mass. God dang it. This stuff's the worst when you get it on your hands. Yeah, I'm gonna be like Goofy when he's in a cartoon where he's like, and then it's stuck to his hand, and then he'll be like, and now it's stuck to his foot.
Yeah.
That's how I'm gonna be now. Half or all, half or all, half or all, half or all. 9, 8, 9, 10. All right, I think it's ready to pour. Ugh, there's like sawdust in there, great. I mean, there's not going to be enough here to fill them both up well, there might be actually, huh? Yeah. Let's just go for it. Man, I like put the exact perfect amount. Okay, well, let's let it sit here for 10 minutes and then we'll come look at it. It's a thick pour, brother. I want to dump the trash. We haven't dumped the trash in like 3 weeks, but now it's our week now. It's time to be a little greedy. It's been 2 days since we poured, so these should be ready to go. Not the prettiest. This one, remember we got that on camera, right? Where that air bubble came up? Oh my God, no. It's in there. You can see it like still partially inside of it. It's like a booger dripping out of a nose. Yeah, I saw that. How crazy. Based on looking at this, you can kind of see where the epoxy seeped to. So we definitely did not need to do all this hot gluing around here. We definitely could have gotten by with just hot gluing. Honestly, probably this. And just getting that tight, and we would have been good. That's what I thought was gonna happen.
Oh, get underneath the wood.
Here we go. It wasn't too bad. That actually might have been a good thing because clearly it got under here. And so if this were not porous, it probably would have kept seeping, but because it's porous, it probably like a sponge, it just like kind of wicked it up. I have no idea if that's true or not, but that sounds reasonable, right? That sucks because this is by far the hardest place to sand. Like it's very easy to sand anything off here and here, but an inside corner is kind of tough. I don't know how easily that stuff's gonna chisel off. It wouldn't be that bad. You just have to get in here and do a little cleanup. So I'll do that later off camera. It'd be great if this just like all popped off in like one clean thing, but So that took care of getting the faces cleaned up. Now we'll just hit it on the edge to get this all cleaned up, and then I'll have to just do something that'll take a little while to get that cleaned up. So that inner transition is where you'd want to be really careful if you were doing a technique like this. You'd definitely want to like wax that up or put some like form release or something in there, so that, because this is going to be a pain in the butt to clean up, but you could take some preventative measures to prevent that. There's no reason to clean them up if I'm just going to test them to break them. I just need to get one of them so that I can get a picture. So probably what I'll do is I'll do the small one and this one, and then the other one will just break. We don't need to clean up. So yeah, heat seems to be like it works pretty decently. This one's actually probably the worst, so let's see if it'll get it. I think I could get better at it, but that seems to be the easiest way to do it. Melamine epoxy removing services. It's like an infomercial. Have you got melamine stuck to your inside corner joints of your experimental furniture projects? Call Salamone Epoxy Melamine Removal Services. Table legs, side table legs, chair legs, dresser legs, Harry Styles, House of Styles, Cindy Crawford, Joey Crawford, crawfish. If it's got melamine stuck to it, I'll heat it off. Clearly, like, I haven't thought of it at all, so I'm racking my brain to think. So even the guy in the commercial that's like supposed to be, you know, it's supposed to be a produced thing, but he's even in the produced commercial, he's like, Joey Crawford. Like, they didn't even, he's just still trying to think of things. All right, I'll keep cleaning and I'll see you again in a few more minutes. Drill Master, the only name to trust in heat guns. Drills, great heat guns, ironically. Now, if you're looking for a real good drill, you're gonna want Heat Masters. Okay, so I got one of them cleaned up nicely over there. That was the one that was a 1-inch gap of epoxy and there was no domino mortise, so it was just a butt joint that it was basically going into. I'm not gonna break that one yet because I need that one for a thumbnail, so it would be stupid to break it. But I do have the other ones. I didn't even bother cleaning these ones up since we're gonna break them and the strength wouldn't be any different. But this is the small one that's a butt joint. Now, I am not an engineer. I know nothing about engineering or really wood strength when it comes to this. I would think that this one and that one should probably be about the same strength. You know, the way that the epoxy is joining to the wood in that one and this one is exactly the same. It's just, it's a thicker layer right there compared to this one. That'll be easy to remember. Big one is reinforced, small one is just a butt joint. And then I just made a regular one and I put an actual domino in this one so we can just see if there's any difference. Now, I don't really have a scientific way to test these out, so I'm basically just gonna hit them with a hammer. I'll try to hit them in about the same place at about the same hammer speed. I don't know. That said, like, I already can tell just like going like this that for a coffee table or something like that, this would be fine. Basically, for any type of furniture that somebody wasn't standing on and dancing, I would be totally fine with this. It's strong. It's definitely strong. But let's see if we can test it out and see what will break it.
Actually, before we do that, let's take a second to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. So I've been using Squarespace for about 4 years now, and it's been great. Prior to that, I used to code everything by hand, which is fine if you like doing that, but it's hard, it takes time, and honestly, the outcome wasn't as nice as it is now with the templates that I use from Squarespace. And more importantly, it was taking me away from doing things that I should be focusing on, like breaking test legs. Now, in addition to Squarespace making it super easy to build and maintain your site, buy domains and all that stuff, they also have plenty of e-commerce, which has been really helpful since we started selling plans. Things like inventory management, a simple and secure checkout process, and unlimited products allow us to easily manage online transactions. So if you're thinking about starting a website, or even if you already have one that you think could be better, you owe it to yourself to check out Squarespace to see if it might be a better option for you. Just head over to squarespace.com/4eyes for a free trial, and then when you're ready to launch, use the offer code 4eyes to save 10% off of your first purchase of a website or domain. All right, thanks Squarespace.
Well, actually, you know what I should do? I should break the wooden one first. That'll give me a relative idea of how hard was it to break, and then I can compare that to breaking the epoxy ones. So maybe we'll go, let's break the wooden one, then we'll break the one that's a butt joint, and then we'll break the one that's reinforced with the domino mortises for the epoxy. This is a lot of pressure to do that though, like because you figure you got leverage on this joint too. But I'm pretty sure I could, okay, so let's see if I can do it. There we go. Okay. It tore like a tiny bit. You can see it like cracked like right there, but yeah, it busted right at the joint, which you would kind of expect just because, you know, this is like a partial end grain joint, so.
And that was glue.
That was just glue, yeah. Okay, so now let's see if that one will break the same way. This one's actually longer, so if I hit it at the top, I'll have more leverage on it. So it broke at the epoxy for sure. Like none of the wood split there. It's all just epoxy that broke. Oh, where did some of the epoxy go? Now let's see this other one. I mean, that makes me think that this one won't be any stronger since it broke at the epoxy and not at the wood, but I don't know. So that one, yeah, it just broke at the epoxy again. So I would say for non-heavy duty uses, I would be very confident with this. Yeah. I let these cure for about 2 days, which is not 100%. I don't know how much stronger it would get, probably not much, but if I didn't already, I'll cut to footage of that splinter table or splinter console that I had built in the past that was a similar kind of technique to this. We didn't do it in that video, but after the fact, I broke that to see how strong it was, and that like pounded on it from the top and it wouldn't break. I finally had to basically like stabilize it and kind of do what I just did there where you're getting like shear strength, where, you know, you're getting an impact at the end, so you have a lot of leverage on the joint. I'm confident enough in it that I would try building a coffee table or a side table or something that I know my kids aren't going to get on and dance, but if I knew that they were, then I'd be like, this isn't the art house experimental piece of furniture for little kids to wrestle on. I'll get the thumbnail of the other one. Maybe we'll just like let it cure for a week and then we'll try to break it. Okay, so it's been now 8 days since we poured. I think I'm wearing the same thing that I was in the last video, but my shoes are different and my socks, so just trust me, it's been like 8 days since we poured, 6 days since I broke those other ones. So let's break the remaining one now and see if it's any harder than the 48-hour cured ones were. Let me see if I can channel how hard I kicked. I gotta remember. Okay, ready? I feel like that was actually a little tougher. I still got through it, but it felt like it like stopped my foot more. But it still basically broke in the same spot. I feel like the other one's just chipped off like right there at the inside corner. I don't think it made that much of a difference. See you in the next video. I got nothing else to say. That's it. This video's been long. See you in the next one.